So this is Reinhard. So yeah, I want to talk about, as I said, control, fear, and love. Yeah, this is definitely not a controlled environment. I can't control all the background noises, so that's just part of the reality. But okay, to talk about it, I want to talk about two things. First, I want to show you something. This is my garden office I made in lockdown. So here, there's actually a desk. Here's my bird cage. I made lovely bird canaries, but then I also created some bird feeders there. It's the bird feeder, and there's another one there for the sunbirds. So why talk about these birds? Well, they're part of the talk, fear, control, and love. And how it works is, you know, I can ask you, so these birds in a cage, do they love me? Well, I think they definitely appreciate me. I mean, they're safe, they get food and water, they chirp and sing, and it's a fairly big cage, you know, so I don't know, I haven't interviewed them. The birds in the garden has a very different life. I also feed them, but I enjoy both, you know. I enjoy them. Some mornings there's doves, they walk around my table as I sit here, and yeah, I definitely love both of them. I really enjoy them, and I think they enjoy the environment. So why are they part of the talk? Well, they're part of the talk because I control, you know, the birds in a cage environment, that they can't come out, you know. So you know, because why are they in a cage? Well, if there's not a cage and they run out, then I have a lovely dog there, Gus there, and he's a game dog, so a game bird dog. He might catch these little quails down there, so I protect them. They're in a cage, you know. So yeah, that's why that's why I control that environment, you know, where the birds outside, they don't need to be in a cage. They won't be caught. I mean, there's Gus, the birds are here, you know, they know each other, healthy boundaries. The birds are in the trees, Gus is in the ground, nothing's going to happen, you know. So but both do appreciate me. And so I want to talk about, so in the sort of introduction I wrote about, so there's a healthy part of control, fear, and love, and there's a not so healthy part. And they play out in different things, you know. So if you control somebody because you fear you're going to lose them, but they don't want to be controlled, that's obviously very unhealthy, you know. So the extreme part of that is abuse, you know. So I mean, there's a unconscious part, but then obviously there's an evil or a conscious part of it, which is really borders on abuse, and sometimes often does. But this plays out not just in relationships, you know, personal relationships. It plays out in our everyday lives. Some of it is things we have control over, and some of them we have less control over. Let's talk a little bit about the things we don't have control over, or less control over. The first thing is politics. So in politics, what happens is sometimes politicians create a sense of fear to control you, you know. So if they can make you afraid about maybe the opposition, then you would vote for them, you know, so they get your love and your loyalty, you know. So and therefore they need to create an aspect of fear, and we've seen this all over the world. I mean, this is certainly not new. I would love to say South Africa, we don't do it. I think we've been guilty of that so many times, obviously in a part of apartheid, very much part of it, you know. So I mean, the white elite was made to believe that the blacks in South Africa would harm them, and they're communist, and so they create a sense of fear that they can control the people and win their loyalty, and that was obviously horrible, and really a crime against humanity. So much so, like many other things, we see Hitler do, we see Stalin do it, but I mean, we see people do it with not just, I mean, South Africa was definitely white on black most of the time, but I mean, Stalin killed his own people, I mean, same race, and so it's not just a racial thing, so it could be done without killing people, so I mean, in Western democratic societies, in America, I don't know American politics that well, but I mean, we watch CNN and Fox News and whatever, so you would say the Republicans would say, oh, well, if you're going to vote Democrat, this is going to happen to you, and vice versa, so we want to use fear to control people that they would show loyalty to us, so, and us as voters, we need to be wise to that fact, because certain things are true, but certain things are just false, and we need to be wise enough to discern between what is really true, what we should fear, and what is false. A second environment is the corporate environment. I mean, I can remember a couple of years ago I was coaching a medium-sized organization, a couple of 100 people, was still family owned, and the then CEO chairman was in a sabbatical for a while, came back, and we did some changes. I mean, as coaches we didn't do it, but we were part of the working with the exco at that stage, and it was a shift in culture which they really wanted to do. When the then chairman came back, was quite upset, called us in, and what did you do, changed the culture, people are like just doing what they want, and yeah, I remember his words. He said, people used to be loyal to me, I mean, now, I go to the bathroom and I find that people didn't change the loo paper roll, that would have never happened before, people were loyal, and he was obviously visibly upset, and, I had to control myself, and I said, you have to understand, people weren't loyal to you, they feared you. There's a huge difference between loyalty and fear. You control the environment by paying them, and maybe often a lot of people who didn't like it and who was skilled enough left and got another job, and so often happens. But maybe you're not that skilled, or you maybe not that secure. Now you stay in that environment, you're controlled by it, so, or you let yourself control by it. So, some of the things, and if you're in an economy that doesn't do that well, maybe you think, I don't like the environment, I don't like how I'm treated here at this company, but if I'm gonna go, I might not get a job, so I'd rather suck it up and live with it, and sometimes these things happen unconsciously, and managers and maybe not aware of their behavior, you can really, I mean, with coaching comes in, you can really help, and if people want to learn, that they can change these things. The other side of it is some people really are aware of these things, and they use it to control people to their own advantage. And the third level that takes place is in personal relationships, and then again, there's two parts. There's a conscious part and there's an unconscious part. And the unconscious part is innocent, and I think you and me maybe have done it both at some stage. People who we love in various relationships, if we fear we lose them, we try to take control, and we ensure what we understand is love, and it's true love, but these things are unconscious, and they're not planned or mean, but if you're conscious of being controlled with the other side of it, maybe what you want to do is make people aware of that or not, but part two of fear control and love. And I was speaking about relationships, right? So first we talked about politics, we talked about work, and now we're talking about relationships. And as you remember, I talked about consciously and unconsciously do it. So unconsciously, if we afraid in a relationship and we're afraid maybe we don't feel love or appreciated, we try to control. We try to control our partner, our spouses, our friends, but there's no evil intent. You know, there is you doing it and you're totally unaware of it. You know, and I think sometimes the partner or the spouse becomes aware that they control, you know. So you can do one of two things. You can help your partner or your spouse to make them aware of that, and you can resolve it very kindly and peacefully. And you know, because I think, you know, in a more or less degree, maybe we've all been guilty of that, you know. So sometimes it's difficult and the timing is wrong, and maybe you just need to endure it for a while, and you know it'll get better, or maybe there'll be a right time to bring it up, and maybe the person that tries to exert the control, being totally unaware of it, is in a very vulnerable space. And so you also want to maybe bear it a bit and know that you know you will not suffer harm if you bear it a little bit more, and there's no evil intent in it, and you can raise it up. But it's definitely not a healthy long-term way to do it, you know. So to be in a relationship where you feel controlled all the time and you don't do something about it, that's not a healthy relationship. So you definitely want to talk about whatever relationship is that, like the birds in my garden, they need to be free. And that doesn't mean there's like the partners in relationships can be unfaithful to each other. Obviously, I mean, that's not what we're going to talk about. What we talk about when we talk about control. That's just the controlled environment you both create for each other. You both understand that you're loyal to each other, you love each other, and that's not what I mean, you know. So, but you know, you want freedom of thought, of expression, to do what you would like to do. Consider your partner, consider your spouse, do it together. But you don't want to feel mentally controlled or physically controlled or financially controlled. That's a very unhealthy space, and so you really want to. And you know, if you endure that, that's not love, that's endurance. I mean, that's just sitting it out, you know. That's not a warm, affectionate, effective relationship. So you definitely don't want to get stuck in that situation. Then unfortunately there's also the part where the person exerts the fear and control, are totally conscious of it, and that's the abuse part and the mean part. Some people are trapped in relationships where a partner or a spouse either controls physically, emotionally, or financially them, and they create fear, and the partner knows they create fear. And they say to their spouse that if you leave me, you'll be broke, and you know I do love you, and maybe they buy them stuff, you know, they give them food, you know, and so the spouse or the partner thinks, oh well, at least they love me, but they don't love you. They just want to control you. They want power, and so, you know, for some people it's very, especially with physical abuse, but even with emotional abuse, it's difficult to get out of it. But if you can and work towards you have to get out of those situations and try as much as you can to. And I understand some of this is really difficult, you know, to and there's some horrible people out there, you know. So, but seek help and to get out of that, you know, that's very important to do, you know. Now, I also talked about earlier, you know, about my birds in the bird cage, about when is it healthy to control in a relationship. Well, these birds, like my dogs, there's my dog, little Gus there, you know, they live in a controlled environment, and it would be cruel if I open the gate, let them go on the street and not feed them and say, well, now you're free, you know. So that's a horrible thing. Now, you would run to the animal welfare organization and tell, listen, Reinhard is abusing his dog, you know, he's not feeding him. The gate's open, the dog can walk in the street. You know, if I open my bird cage, the little quails come out, maybe the dog eats them, you know. So there's a controlled environment. With children, we do the same, you know. My young kids, they couldn't just do what they want to do. Some of them, sometimes they wanted to, but because I knew this is dangerous, I controlled it. You know, a small kid plays with fire or electricity, there might be a stern reprimand. They might not like it, but it's for their own safety. It's out of love that you do that, you know. But when somebody has the sense that something is dangerous, and they're an adult, we don't treat them like 2-year-olds. We treat them as people who can make their own decisions, and we treat them with respect and give them the freedom. And because that's where the love is giving people the freedom. And again, I spoke about relationships. This is not about unfaithfulness. It's just freedom to think, to express themselves, to be themselves. Extremely important. As in personal relationships, and that's also in companies, you know. Your employees, to hear their voice, to acknowledge their creativity, extremely important, you know. So if you micromanage your team or your people in your company, and you think they're loyal because they obey you, understand that's obedience. That's not love. They're not going to fill in an anonymous survey and score you great on gratefulness and a loving environment. It's not going to happen. If they truly believe that the thing is anonymous, they will not score you high on that. You won't get any points for loyalty because you control them with maybe money, or you tell them they're stupid, they won't get a job anywhere else. Just like their politicians, they threaten, tell their people, oh, if you're going to vote for these people, you know, they're going to abuse you. You know, and you do it to stay in power as a politician, and you abuse their loyalty, just like the business person abuses the loyalty of his or her workers, or the husband, wife, partner abuses the comfort and the satisfaction they get out of controlling their partner. You know, those things are evil and should be avoided at all stages, you know. So for love, true love to exist, and people who can think for themselves and who are adults, they must be free to decide for themselves. They must be free to express themselves, and then they'll come to you and they'll love you and they'll give you everything. I mean, these little birds outside here, you know, I feed them. They give me great joy, you know. I enjoy seeing them every morning. They walk around me, but if they don't come, you know, I'm not going to start shooting them just because they didn't pitch up one morning, you know. They are free. They're not the children in my cage here. If I leave them out, the dog will eat them. These are free birds. I don't catch them. They were born in the wild. I let them go, and that's the relationship we have, you know. And that's how I express my appreciation to them, you know. So yeah, I think there's big lessons, and it's maybe, you know, it's not as simple as this, but maybe this helps you to think about these things and how you can use it in your life. Thank you very much.